Recording is on.
All right. So here's what happens. Um, this is the target on my screen. I believe you can see my screen. The target you can decide to type on the target, but the basic thing is you can also focus on the command. The command is more easier, but it is any which way you do them, they are both fine. Just like some people would not decide to use this particular Zenmap, which is the graphical user interface, and they decide to use just command the moment they've installed Nmap on their system. So I can decide to use Nmap through this particular aspect, Nmap, and I type 192.168.56.1. I think this should be available. And it scans and it tells me, okay, this person is actually available. So at the same time, I can also come here on the command and type it. Or perhaps I put the IP address just here and I say 192.168.56.1 and it's going to scan. It's the same thing. One thing you need to understand is the target is the major one. That's the IP address of whatever an attacker or whatever you decide to go to probably pay attention to. This is exactly where it appears, and the command is just more or less like a support to it to indicate exactly what you want it to do. I use intent. Oh, I use intent scan.
Okay. I have another question. I don't know if I can go ahead.
Yeah, you can proceed while we.
Okay. I noticed something yesterday. I went to online. What is my IP address? So it gave me a different IP address from the one that I use a command CMD. CMD also give me a different IP address. And with Wireshark, the IP address is similar with the is the same with the command prompt, but the different IP address with what is my IP address. So I don't know what is the meaning. The other one is giving me different IP address, and the command script is also giving me different IP address. So
Okay, so that would be answered. Let's just say, what is my IP address? Let's address that. Okay, what is my IP address is going to show you a different IP address. And this is the IP address you see here, IPv4. Now I switch and I change, I use almost four networks. So this IP address is, I think, is iWorld IP address. Now this is the IP address of your internet service provider. Those who provide you what do we call it, internet, that you subscribe to, those people that you use through their port to connect to the internet. So this is internet protocol version 4. So this is their IP address. Let's say MTN, that is the IP address MTN has given to you. They gave you a number, and through that particular number you subscribe, you do whatever you have to do, and you go through the internet through this particular IP address. So let's say, for example, you're making use of MTN. You use MTN as your telecom service or your internet service provider. All your calls and all your record, all your text message goes through this particular IP address. So let's say MTN want to make research on you. Every call you have been making, it goes through this particular one. Every messages you, maybe your text message, they go through this particular place. So this one only provides you the internet. Now if one tends to be an attacker does not have to attack you through this ISP. The reason is this: if the attacker decide to attack you through this ISP, the internet service provider, that means they are going to disrupt. They are not fighting you, they are fighting MTN. So if you come through this IP address and you disrupt anything here, that means the person that really tends to be their target, they would not be able to have access to that person, because if you disrupt this person communication, then that person would not be able to be online. And if the person is not online, then that means you can't do anything to that person. I hope you understand. So on this particular aspect where we call maybe we use Wireshark, Windows PowerShell. Let me use this for example. Now on this aspect, when I use IP config to see the IP address, this one is going to show me a different IP. Now this IP address you see wireless, my internet communicates with this computer with this particular IP address. Now, that particular IP address also, if it is connected to another system, because I use a couple of systems, if, as it's connected to this particular one, they are using the same network. This is using a different network. Now, and that is the network for this particular system. So this one tends to be one of our lab stuff. This particular one and this particular one, they would have different IP or sub IP address they use in connecting to the one that came from MTN, for example, that MTN tends to be your service provider. So if an attacker wants to attack, they don't go to the MTN IP address. They can scan through that one to get to this one, but this one tends to be the target when it is connected to the port of the system. It provides its own IP address. So once I get into this IP address, because your system is what matters to me, the server system that has the information is what matters to me. That is the system that they go after. So this IP address here is the one they go after, this uh not this particular one called what is my IP address. What is my IP address? This one is what they use in, okay, knowing your location whenever you make calls, whenever you send text messages. And that's the reason why this keeps your record. And if you misplace your MTN SIM or you misplace any SIM at all, when you go there, they ask you to call the last four numbers or ask you to call the last five numbers. Why? Because they have record of everyone you are calling. So this is
Oh,
the one they use in operating with you.
okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I think we are clear on that. And so let's continue with today's class while I would open another system. There are a few here that I would have choose to open, but let me use these other ones. So we're talking about scanning and the importance of scanning. I would want to make emphasis on this particular Nmap, why we now transcend into Wireshark little by little. But I would like those who don't understand things to pay attention to what we are saying. Nmap is just, it is very important in Nmap because what happens is that I don't think an hacker would hack through a network and they would not need Nmap one way or the other. Nmap is one of the most important things. We might use F ping, we might use H ping 3, we might use netcat. Whatever we use, it is all associated under Nmap, one way or the other. But those scanning is to see the ports that are vulnerable within the system. For example, I think let me open through this other system here that will be communicating with these two systems. Um, let me share the screen of this particular one. Here is this. Okay, this my IP address. Now you can let me even um, let you see something. Now I open this my other system here. This is a Mac system, and what you can see is a different one now appearing on your screen. This one you can see that the IP address 41242.75.137 is the same as this particular one. So they are both using the same network because they are using the same internet service provider, and that's it. So for scanning, you need to understand that your network is the first place that most people would want to go after because network seems like if I come around your environment when I come around your environment and I put on something like the Wi-Fi, or we use, very soon we will get to that particular application. I hack into your network, then I have access to all the information on your system. And the possible thing here is this: even if you have only two ports that are open, if I can penetrate into one, I can decide to create a different port, and those ports would have access to other informations on your system. So the same way it is applicable, and that's the reason why you need to be very careful or sensitive when it comes to the aspect of network, because through network, first of all, I can have access to what you're saying on your system. If you're speaking to your system or you are saying something around your computers, I know what is going on. Most people also, they would have said something like, government are paying attention to what you're saying, allegedly. And why is that happening? That's simply because some your ports are open to them. And once your ports are open, some of us would have observed that when you talk about something, maybe you talk about Gucci bag with your phone, and your phone is connected to the internet, and you just open your stuff and you are browsing, you just see that Gucci bag begins to come as adverts to you. Why? Because your phone pays attention to what you're saying. And there's what we call Google Voice. So look at your phone, you're going to see Google Voice Note, you're going to see all those kind of stuff. It is simply because your ports are kind of connected. I would maybe make one more scan so we can see something here. Um, what's this my IP address? I think this one ends with 176. Okay, but 1.176. Nmap, why is it not 1.176/24? All right. So what I just did right now is that I just scanned my system. And the moment you have this IP, what I scanned now is I scanned this phone. This phone is connected to the internet. And so that's what you're seeing. This particular system is connected to the internet. That's what you're seeing. And this particular one I'm communicating with is connected to the internet. And that's what you're seeing. And my wife's phone is connected to the internet. So what do you see? You see four hosts. Now, this IP address, this IP address, this IP address, they are all connected to that IP address of what is my IP address.com. But if I have access to this, I can have access to everybody's phone. Then I can install whatever, disable your antivirus, disable your firewall, and I can have files. And whatever you say through your phone, when we start going in depth, I can hear everything you are saying. I can turn on your camera without you knowing. Why? Because these ports are not secured. Don't worry, I like to open my own system. So come and scan it. Now, you need to also be aware that when you scan people's network, there are some organizations, when you scan their network, they are aware that you are scanning their network. The moment you scan their network, they know you are actually scanning their network. So in the idea of Nmap, when you are scanning network, there's what we call passive scanning, and there's what we call active scanning. Passive scanning and active scanning. Now, the passive scanning is like, I want to scan you and I don't want you to be aware that I'm scanning you. And most times, when certain officials, institutions want to scan you and watch what you are doing, they mostly use passive scan. But when they want you to just, maybe they feel like you have no clue about anything, they use active scan. Active scan is, I want to go directly and gather information just like that. So we are going to talk about some of the passive scan, and we are going to talk about active scan. And I think that will be leading us to, one way or the other, our next program. Um, in the aspect of Nmap, you need to understand what it does. Number one, we can use Nmap It helps us determine the live host, that's the network that provides information to those particular system. It also helps us in discovery of network topology. It's also used to find open ports. It's also used to detect versions of operating system. Some of us know that when you are making use of an iPhone and you are making use of an Android phone, they are not kind of compatible in many ways. So you can't directly send files from your iPhone to an Android phone. Why? Because they are using various operating system. And so when people test your operating system, they want to know exactly what you are using. So, for example, I'll always say, if you want to go to the barracks, let's say you want to go to a police station, for example, and then you just carry machine gun. Most of the law enforcement may not have machine gun. What they have is what they call AK-47. But if you want to go to a barracks, for example, you don't go with AK-47, you don't go with machine gun, you must be going with bomb. So the idea is that if you want to, while you're scanning a network, or what hackers do when they are scanning your network is they are trying to see the payload or the virus that is going to be compatible with your operating system. And so the moment they understand the kind of virus, the kind of operating system you are making use of, I believe when we start going into um, web application and how to hack through website, because that's a different one. If I don't hack you through your network, does not mean I can't hack you through the website. Through the website, I can still penetrate into your system. So we are just talking about the foundational one. Now, when they come through that particular network area, they want to detect what operating system you are using. They want to detect the version of the operating system you are using, and also to find the vulnerability that exists around your system. So maybe sometimes your software you use might need to be upgraded every 3 days, and you wait for that 3 days for it to be upgraded. Don't worry. During the period of 5 minutes that you are connected to the internet, before you upgrade, they could have penetrated and inject all the aspect of your system. And then you think you are in charge of your system until they are ready to take charge of it. You wouldn't know they are just sitting and they are watching everything, single thing you are doing. So you need to pay attention. These are the things that what do they call it? That Nmap does. And all the scanning is to give us more detailed information about those systems. Now, the idea why are we talking about this in this particular class is that you need to also know how they think as people. Like I always say, the difference between a police and a thief is conscience. They are both the same. Conscience is what differentiates them. So the reality is, if you're working with an organization, I think after some program we will learn how to detect when our system are being scanned. And once you know your system is being scanned, you can block that IP address from scanning your system. And besides, you can go after the IP address. Let's say they are coming after your organization. How do you know that somebody is watching you or monitoring you? So that's there. But now we are going to work on passive scan, and then we'll talk about active scan. I think we would maybe we'll work on active scan. Should we work on active scan first? Um, we'll touch on few scans. Sorry, give me a few minutes. So we are going to talk about first scanning. To scan also the people who probably are scanning you, and you want to scan in a passive way whereby they are not aware that you are actually scanning them. Because the moment you type stuff like this, if you come to my system and you type nmap blah 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 blah, I already know you have scanned my system. If you go to the bank and you do blah 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 like this, they already know you are scanning their system. They are already watching you. They already probably have even got into it, because what you're doing is you're communicating with their system. And if you ping their system, you are saying, speak to me. And once this system begins to reply to you, there is a log that later I'm going to reveal it to you, where you will find the logs that are actually responding. So the moment it's responding to your system, they know that you are actually communicating and they are already watching you. And please, you need to also understand this. This Nmap does not only scan IP address, it also scan website. For example, I think we have done this before, but for the sake of lecture, let's just touch on this one more time. Let's use something like Temu. We are not going to go far on it. Just for example, Temu.com. And please, I want you to pay attention. When I scanned the things here, you can see that it showed part of the previous scan I scanned. It shows a phone here. It shows ITEL PCs 5. Yes, and that's my wife's phone. This is the system. So this particular one is my other phone. Okay, this is the Mac. I think this might be my phone. Okay, this tells us now that this is temu.com. This is a website. Port 80 is open. Okay, we can decide to increase it to intense scan. Give us more information on this particular port in this network, on this website. Sorry. Now it's scanning 1000 ports. And now, do you see that just typing temu.com, the IP address of Temu opens here? And because the IP of Temu opens here, now I know Temu's IP address. Let me open an application here. And so you can decide to break in. A lot of people would decide, hackers would decide to break into such website via their network. You can break through their network and you can break through. Okay, this is Temu. Now you can see their trace route, and I would explain that in a second. Now you can see fastly.com. They are associated with this. You can see what they are associated with, everything that has to do with their port. And this indicates that these two particular ports is open. Now, the difference is that they have good cloud. There's what we call cloud, and they some of their information there. So it will be difficult saying you are going after this kind of organizations. But now that I scan them, I want you to also observe something. Look at the bottom of my screen. You see raw packet sent 2093, 95.680 kilobytes was sent to their server system. Now they received it. The moment they receive it, they know that this guy just scanned them. Now, there are also other IP address, sub IP address associated with Temu, and these are the IP addresses. You can see this particular one. You can see this particular one. Now, people make more research on stuff like this. You can say that such an IP address, they can take this IP address and, let's just use the simple one, Google it. Request host does not match the sub. Now, do you know the meaning of this? To be sure about something, it shows that they use VPN. This is a fake IP address. It is not their real IP address. So they fake it. So it is always cool. They are smart people. So it is always cool to it is always cool that you can also fake your IP address. And so when you fake your IP address, someone can scan your IP address and it mislead them. I think it even goes with some of our conversations. So what they did is they attach a fake IP address. So if you're scanning to find information on them, it's going to it's going to lead you to nowhere. Sorry, the 1, 2, 3. It's going to lead you to nowhere. Now, whenever you scan a port, first of all, it tells the owner, like I said earlier, that you are connected to that particular system. You have tried to scan their system. So, one of the scans you can actually use for one not to understand that you have actually scanned your system, you need to use what we call the S, which is the syntax scan. What's going on here? Let me turn off this. Okay, S and then X. And then you put in the IP address 192.168.1.176. That means with whatever firewall you have on your system, it will just pass by. So the person would not receive information that you scan their system when you use something like this. But if you go ahead and you remove this particular one, the person can be aware that you've scanned their system. It shows you the same thing, but one hides you. It's more or less like you are just passing by and watching what is going on around the other side. Um, I believe, please remind me, I don't know what's going on with this particular one. I believe I've talked about how we can get all the old scan on Nmap. Every scan on Nmap, you want to get it, you can use this particular command to get it. Before I start explaining some of them. H. Have we talked about this? How to get all this command? Please, somebody can respond. Let me.
No, no.
No, we
Okay,
haven't.
okay. Okay. Now, every magic you think anybody is doing on this Nmap, nothing is that special, but it is just the knowledge that is kind of important. Now, when you are lost, because some of us, we are always confused about this scanning stuff. When you are lost, you need to know that, okay, I want to scan something and I can't remember all the commands in my head. What you can do is you type nmap and then space, you put a dash, and then you type H. Nmap,
What does the H stands for? Is it help?
yes, help. So
Okay,
it
okay.
reminds you of all the command. So you can do it also here, nmap dash H, and it reminds you of all the command. I think I used Temu earlier before I wanted to see something. I believe everyone has taken note of that.
Yes.
All right. I want to use something here, temu.com, and let's use the intent scan. Okay, back to this one. I'm going to use something here to think. Don't worry yourself. I'm just trying to show you something here. 101. 192.168.66.58. So I ping this particular IP address and it shows that it is alive, but this particular IP address is just a decoy, does not exist. But then one can say in this aspect, it's used, it shows temu.com is alive. And then I know that I still need to make some scan here, but we are not there yet. How you can, get IP. I don't want to really expose their IP address since they are hiding it. I'm not in the position to. But one of the people who are very good, who are generous, and they don't hide their IP address, are these people. So most of you would have heard that they are CIA operatives, blah blah blah. They are very generous by opening their port down. Now I'm just doing this to and I think I have actually showed us certain things, and I would even explain something on this facebook.com. At least most of us understand the owner of facebook.com, and we also realize that a lot of people are losing their account on Facebook. And the question is that when a port 80 is open, though they have 443 here, you can't do anything. But when a port is open, port 80, the question is, why is it open? And then if you type facebook.com.ng, you would see the real IP address. Because for those that are in diaspora right now, if you type facebook.com on this place and you use your intent scan, you would realize that the IP address is different from this 102 dot blah blah 13. Let me even use it on this aspect, on this place. And I want anyone in diaspora can try it. Let me use Nmap here. Use Nmap and scan facebook.com and tell me what you see there so we can understand why it's showing up that way. Let me use aggressive.
The IP is 157.240.241.30. It's different from this one.
All right. Now, the reason why it's different is exactly what I want to explain. Okay, this one shows 102.132
.132
dot
101.35.
5. Yeah. Now, what is the difference? The difference is that every country has their own port and their own IP. So those of us that are in Nigeria, when we scan, we would see different thing. Now, I want you to scan that same IP address, and then I want you to type Facebook. Let's type, let's go facebook.com, just add .ng and see the IP address.
.ng, right?
Yes.
As in facebook.com.ng.
Yeah.
It said it's blocked. Hold things down. If you're really up but blocking our ping pro, try .pn.
.pn. Okay, they are
Yeah.
trying to tell you maybe you want to bypass. No, I want you to use intent scan. Use intent scan.
Okay.
Click on the intent scan and then facebook.com.ng.
Okay. I have the IP is 69.171.224.11.
Say it again.
The
69.171.224.11.
yes.
All right.
Then
Now
there's
look
another
at
IP address. It said other addresses, but not scanned.
okay. Now
Okay.
what it shows here, it's now this is the IP address you're talking about. 69.171.224.11. Now the
Yes.
question is, why is it that when we tried facebook.com, it showed us different IP address? It's because you are in a different location.
Okay.
Now, in your different location, if you are in Canada, facebook.com.ca. If you are in US, facebook.com.us. If you are in UK, facebook.com.uk.
Okay.
Yeah. But now facebook.com.ng, if you in UK or you change your IP and you still make sure that when you type facebook.com.ng, you are being specific about Nigeria, Facebook, and then
Okay.
it shows you the same IP address and it shows me the same IP address. It means they did not mask this IP address. This is their real IP address for the one in Nigeria.
Okay.
So that lays the foundation. Normally, if they decoy their IP address, even when I say facebook.com.ng, it will show you different things there. It should show me different things. Yeah, just the way Temu would want to do. So that means they are really not that safe. There are many ways we can debunk these people, but whenever you're using any information on stuff like this, you need to be careful. I think, okay, so I used them through this particular place. This is aggressive scan. I use aggressive scan on Facebook, and you can see I have the version or their server. This is their server, Proxy Bolt. Um, shows me when I scan them. That's because I did not hide my scanning, and it shows a lot of things that is attached to them. And what are the things that are attached to them? It shows some files, shows some websites, some ports that are attached to them. It shows that they are associated with WhatsApp. It shows that they are associated with what else again? Let's go down a bit and see. It shows they are associated. The service they okay, Google Analytics. They are associated with it. That is their server. It shows that um okay, this WhatsApp. What else again? It shows that they are the owner of Instagram, cdinstagram.com. So if I decide, or no, I won't decide that. If one decides to, okay, it shows their real where they are, where their company is actually established in California, country name in US. That's Facebook headquarter is in California, country name US. Shows meta platforms what they create. It shows Messenger what they do. They also have an application of Messenger. And all these things are into one particular server. Now that means if you break into one server, you've broken into all aspects of these individuals. And the question is that why would an organization in the world of cybersecurity, why will an organization have all this particular thing in one database when they have millions and billions of people that are using this particular application? Why would they have it in one particular place and it's not well secured? It is basically because, in my opinion, probably they just have it for having people's data. And that's the reason why most of them are not secured, so they can tamper with some of the data and you can see people lose their accounts. It is not a safer way of running things as an organized institution. So if you are working in as a cybersecurity personnel in something like Facebook, you will give them such advice, but that's if they are going to take it. So with that being said, um, let's come back to Nmap. So whenever you're using Facebook, my advice would always be use a very strong password. Make sure you have some. Don't put in information that your life depend on that particular stuff. If possible, if you truly want to keep some things private for yourself, then don't put those things there. Because if they are very easy to access, they might be making it easy. So whenever they want to access you, like the people who own Facebook right now, it simply means that while you are making use of Facebook and you are making use of WhatsApp and you are making use of Instagram, they can look at all your messages both on Instagram, both on WhatsApp, both on Facebook, because they put everything, they attach it all together. So that means if your phone number is attached to Facebook, that same phone number, when they want to get to you, they just go to your WhatsApp. That phone number is attached to your WhatsApp. They see all the conversations you are having, and then goes to Instagram. They sees all the message that is going on. Now, the reality of all this situation is not that they are terrible people. It's just like most of us, we want privacy. And if you want privacy, then you need to be aware of things like that. And how do you know that they are all connected to one server? That is exactly what I've shown us here, that they are all connected to one server. As simple as ABC. So you need to be careful of what information you also put out. If you want to really live a private life and you don't want anyone to infringe on your privacy, that is the reason why I'm telling us this particular thing. But it is funny that through IP address or through this Nmap, you can scan and you can get IP address, and then you can see a lot of information on people. Now, let's go back to this stuff here on the Nmap H, which is help, which stands for help. Whenever you're scanning things, I want you to understand this, that the first scan you are going to see is like the target specification. This is just to target blah, blah, blah. And these ones, we rarely make use of them because there are other files. And we will touch on this later. On this host discovery, this particular one cover your host, but you, you are not going to receive much information when you use this to scan. When you also make use of this, so that means we are going to use SL. I'm also kind of giving us an assignment now. Let us practice on most of these particular commands. For host discovery, we are going to practice on them and how do we make use of them. Then we have scan techniques. These ones are basically to scan TCP ports or FTP port. FTP port is like a file transfer port or file transfer protocol. That's when you want to upload a file. Mostly it uses port 80. And I remember that in the last class we had, that was on Tuesday, I spoke about we understanding the importance of certain ports, which I would go back to soon. So this is TCP ports, transfer control protocol ports. You can use some of this to scan, and I want us to practice it. Sometimes I want us to fail so that we would learn out of our failure and then I can correct. This particular one in SI is a zombie host. This is for you to just scan something without the person knowing that you're scanning. And that's why you see idle scan. And for those of us who want to work as law enforcement through cybersecurity, these are the things we can also learn to use when watching people that you have detected that they are chromosome. Now moving to port specification and scan order, we are also going to work on this. These are part of our assignment. And then we talk about version detection, SV version detection. These particular ones are to detect the kind of version or software the person is using on their system. Script scan also has its own part to gather more information on individuals. And then we have OS. This is specifically for operating system detection. You can use any of these. Now you have to understand that not everything you can make use of. Some of them would work and some of them would not work, depending on what you allow on your system. For someone like me, we like making use of this particular operating system, Kali, and I open all my old ports down so that my system can go out and do whatever work it wants to do. But I think we will get to this particular page soon. And then for us to evade firewall, these are also the things that you can do to decoy. This is exactly what Temu did. And we will still get to some of these. And so you can learn about some of these things, scan your port, and then know how to protect yourself from them. So these are assignments for us. Remember, when I say A is for aggressive scan, it enables OS detection, version detection, script scanning, and trace routes. And so when you look at this particular scan that I did here, I use aggressive scan, nmap/a, facebook.com. And what did it do? It gives me version. This is the particular version 80 proxygen. And just because we are not there, I can go further on stuff like this if I had permission, and you'll be surprised what you will find out. And then it shows also ports that are open. Okay, 433, 443 is okay. And shows these are the scripts. And this is what it means. It shows that they have what we call fingerprints on their applications for security purpose. They have fingerprints. So next service fingerprint submit individually. But the moment I have this information, one can still bypass. Then, okay, it shows adapter and then it shows the trace route. So that is what aggressive scan does. So this will be one of our assignments. So back to, I think I'm saying here, we understand it. This is actually an assignment for us to practice with our IP address and scan. To use URL, we have to focus on all these things and scan them. Please, if you don't understand, let me know before I proceed to the next one. Are we together?
Hello.
Hello. I
Hello.
don't know if you can. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can. Yeah, for the benefit of those who are just joining for today, I think you have thrown more light on this particular place, and we are just bouncing around now. We don't know exactly how it works.
Exactly, exactly. Because um, for me, I tried as much as possible to download the Nmap. I've not been able to download the Nmap. I use a Windows 11. I'm a bit rusty with all this computer stuff now, but I am catching up because I was an enthusiast some time ago. But downloading Nmap has been a challenge to me. I tried doing that, and then is it Nmap? Must I download Nmap on a Kali Linux system, or will I download? Can I be able to download it on a Windows system? So I don't know. It's a difficult
Yes,
thing.
you can download it on your Windows system, and that is why you see it here. This is a Windows system. This is a Kali. This is Kali, but this is Windows system. And to download it, what you do is you go to nmap.org,
Okay.
and then you click on download.
Okay.
and then you choose if you're making use of a Windows, if you're making use of Mac OS, or if you're making use of Linux. But mostly for those who are using Kali Linux, Nmap automatically comes with it. So click on Windows, and then it will bring you to this Microsoft Windows binaries.
Mm.
And then you click on Nmap 7.95 setup.exe.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
when you click on it, you make sure you download it either on your desktop or your download, and then you run the application and you install it.
So question. What I so the assignment you gave us is that we put our IP address and then we add put it in the Nmap then search in it.
Yeah. And then what did you discover? I talked about blocking ports if your port is open, which I showed us how to block to make sure we are secured.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Please emphasize more on the assignment. I didn't really get it. Let me get the assignment, please.
Okay. What we discussed was to scan your ports, but then you have to look at your IP address, which you can find your IP address through Windows PowerShell. And then you type ipconfig. And if you're making use of a Bluetooth, you should see the IP address here. If you're making use of wireless LAN adapter that is wireless, you should see your IP address. The moment you see the IP address, then you scan that particular IP address. Or in another form, you can install an application called Wireshark, which we're about to touch on. And once you open Wireshark,
Sir, I know to that level. I know to that level. Just that you mentioned assignment. So I was thinking that you have assignment for us. So I was like trying to get it because I didn't put it down when you were saying that.
okay, you
I
didn't
know,
go with the last assignment.
sir?
Are you just joining us for the first time?
No, 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 no. You just mentioned assignment. So these stages you're talking about now, I know about them already.
Okay. The
Yes, yes.
assignment I'm saying is that this particular Nmap, you can test some of this particular command to scan your network and see different things there, because you need to learn to make research as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Some things that work today might not work tomorrow. So the idea is for you to know how to update yourself also.
Recording has stopped.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm like, get used um to okay. Is this done? We're done with this. Sorry.